Hi guys and welcome to another Hero of the Week. This week's hero is former Tory and former Attorney General Dominic Grieve, someone who is both anti-Brexit and anti-Johnson. Well, he was interviewed for the BBC where he laid it out straight exactly what Boris Johnson is, a charlatan. He said that Johnson is such a liar that he can't be trusted on anything. Anyway, let's hear what he had to say.
The Prime Minister has shown himself consistently to be a consummate liar. And all this is suggestive of the chaos that goes on at Downing Street and which has been consistent ever since this Prime Minister got into office. It's so difficult to extrapolate where truth lies because trust is completely broken down. This is a Prime Minister who is a serial liar because the Prime Minister will say anything that happens to come into his head at any moment, which will get him off a temporary hook. How can you trust his utterances on any subject whatever? The Prime Minister, who is clearly just not fit for office and wriggles around over issues of truth all the time, undermining the authority of Parliament, undermining the authority of government as well. There is no point in supporting a Prime Minister who decides to act unethically over and over again and to tell lies about what he's doing. I was a party member for over 44 years, and I have great faith in the Conservative Party and great affection for it. But watching where this charlatan has been taking it over the 2 years plus that he's been in office is a really painful thing to see. Because forget about Brexit for one moment. It hasn't got much to do with Brexit. It's about to do whether there are any ethics at the heart of government at all, and whether governance is being carried out soundly, and whether government ministers and above all the Prime Minister can be trusted. And the simple fact is that the Prime Minister can't be trusted on anything. What is clear is that this Prime Minister has a remarkable propensity to employ people who he then chucks out of the sledge when the going gets rough and throws to the wolves, which is what he classically did today, with absolutely no responsibility of his own whatsoever. Because one of the questions he might ask himself, even if the basic facts he's given us are correct, which I simply don't know because I don't trust him, but just he might just go back and ask himself the question, why is it that in this time of crisis, in the office which I run, staff think it's permissible to do this sort of thing? And the answer is because they see the Prime Minister behaving in exactly the same fashion.
So Grieve said that what we've seen over the last number of days is just an example of the chaos we've seen over the last 2 years. This is true. When it came to Brexit, millions of pounds were spent on getting the country ready, even though Boris Johnson and Number 10 knew that at the time the UK could not leave on the 30th of October 2019. Then last year we had the chaos over the pandemic. Boris Johnson missed important COBRA meetings and then ignored the warnings from SAGE until it was too late. Then there was the messaging: stay at home, don't stay at home, go to work, work from home. And this wasn't helped by the fact that ministers were getting their marching orders from Number 10, who was in charge of the messaging. Then we had that ridiculous debacle with Dominic Cummings and Barnard Castle. I remember saying at the time, trust has been completely broken here, and it's going to take a lot to recover it. Greaves also talked about how Johnson will say anything to get him off the hook. While this is true for Johnson, it has to be remembered that the likes of Theresa May engaged in it too. Remember, Brexit means Brexit, and red, white and blue Brexit. She also gave £1 billion to the DUP and bent over backwards to keep the ERG happy, and in the end they threw her under a bus. I love how Dominic Grieve said, and I quote, "How can you trust his utterances on any subject whatsoever?" I love this because it feels like he's speaking directly to me here. I've said that if Boris Johnson said it was December, I'd have to check a calendar. Boris Johnson undermines the office he currently holds, but it's all a big joke to him, a bit of fun. I think he hasn't resigned yet because he feels that, well, he'd have nothing else to do with himself. It's likely that Carrie would dump him if he were to leave office. Grieve also mentioned in this clip how Johnson is willing to chuck people out when things get tough, and we've seen him do this over the last number of years. Charlatan, the spokesperson, is the latest example, of course. What's funny about her situation is that she was fired for laughing about a party, but that party allegedly didn't happen. Sorry, not fired, resigned. Finally, the former Attorney General said that the staff at Number 10 act this way, the way that they do, is because Johnson's doing it and getting away with it. This is a bit like the TV show The Office, but instead of Boris Johnson being like David Brent and having competent workers, number 10 is David Brent in charge, but with absolute chaos around him, because those employed are either friends of his or people who he has some personal connection to. Meritocracy is not the priority here. Dominic Grieve laid it out perfectly. Boris Johnson is a liar and a charlatan that should not be trusted, and the longer he stays at number 10, the worse things will get. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.